Ever since Donald Trump and the Republican tax plan was passed, we have been speculating, but also reporting on who is actually going to have lower tax liability in 2018 for the 2018 tax year for which we are now starting to file taxes. Who's going to pay more taxes? Because the tax cuts as they are being billed are mostly for corporations and for rich people. And middle class Americans are actually going to be sort of split in terms of whether they pay more or less in taxes for this current tax year that we are, or the current year for which we are paying, which is 2018. And even if in the short term, a lot of those middle class Americans have a slight reduction in how much they pay in taxes, much of what impacts the middle class in the bill is only temporary compared to the permanent tax cuts for corporations and for rich people. So there's a sort of a few different ways in which middle income people could benefit from a tax cut plan if indeed it is real. So number one is you might just get what we would call like a straight up tax cut at the end of the year, accounting for your withholdings and your refund. Your total tax paid goes down. That would be a tax cut. There are other ways in which middle income people might benefit. If you believe in trickle down economics, you would believe that by giving corporations and rich people a tax cut, it would filter down or trickle down to middle class Americans, either by seeing increased capital investment in businesses or increased hiring for businesses. But we got a report last week saying neither of those things have happened. And then there's the just kind of vague, we're all better off when rich people and corporations have more money, which I don't even think really warrants refuting at this point because we're so past beyond that absolute and total nonsense. But most notable is, are people getting tax refunds or not in 2018? And the reality is that there are now more and more Trump voters tweeting, what happened to my tax refund? Now, I'm going to break down whether the refund in and of itself actually tells us what we need to know about the tax cut plan. Hint, it doesn't. But as some examples we've seen, let's look at some tweets from Trump voters who are very, very angry about how they're actually being impacted by Donald Trump's tax plan. The first of which is April Henderson saying, we're paying $5,000 more in taxes for 2018. Imagine our surprise. We voted for you, Donald Trump. We have advocated for you. I have lost lifelong friends in support of you. I am truly disappointed. Not only have our taxes increased, but you've done nothing to fix our health care. Another tweet. Just got my tax returns completed for the first time under the new tax law. I'm officially paying more in taxes so rich people can pay less. You're almost done wiping out the middle class. Donald Trump and Republicans, this one is on you. I'd vote for Hillary before I voted for you again. One other example. Donald Trump, I trusted and voted for you. Now screwed by you. I fall just above a tax bracket. I don't get the $5,000 return I've gotten the last 3 years. Money my family depends on to start us over. I served my country honorably. I will not make the same mistake twice. Very angry. Doesn't appear to understand how marginal tax rates work, but okay. And then lastly, Donald Trump just did my taxes and thanks for increasing mine. No change in income and got back 400 less than last year. That campaign promise was one of the only two reasons I voted for you. Rethinking that decision now. So let's first remember that a lot of these people are angry, but they don't necessarily understand how taxes work. So it's really, really important. I want to give everybody all the information that they need to figure this out. The first thing to understand is that your tax refund doesn't tell you whether your taxes went up or down. Some people expected tax cuts. Some people got them. Some people didn't get them. But some people just aren't realizing that the refund amount doesn't actually tell you whether you paid more or less in taxes, because there's a difference between taxes withheld and taxes actually owed. You could have 2 years in a row where you pay $10,000 in taxes. Imagine that in the first year, during the year, you have $12,000 withheld. Turns out you only owe $10,000 in taxes, so when you file your taxes, you get $2,000 back. Great. The next year, you might owe $10,000, but you only had $9,000 withheld. So when you do your taxes, you have to cut a check for $1,000. In both cases, you paid $10,000 in taxes, the difference being in the first year, you over withheld. In the second year, you under withheld. So changes were made by the tax law to withholdings, and the idea was to make the withholdings closer to people's actual effective tax rates. So you reduce your withholding during the year, you get a smaller refund at the end, but that doesn't actually change the amount of tax due. So that's number one. Some people just clearly don't get it, that your refund doesn't tell you whether you owe more or less in taxes in total. But then let's get to some of the reasons why people may actually have had an increase in the 2018 tax year to the amount of tax that's due. Number one, there is now a limit of $10,000 to what's called the SALT deduction. The SALT deduction tells you how much income, how much money rather, can you deduct in state and local taxes and real estate taxes. That limit is now $10,000. So imagine that you earn $75,000 in Massachusetts, which has a 5.3% income tax. That's $3,950 in Massachusetts income tax that you pay. That eats up about 40% of your $10,000 SALT deduction. If you have a property where your property taxes are, for example, $7,000, you're only going to be able to deduct $6,000 of those $7,000 because you will hit that $10,000 SALT deduction. There are lots of people who are seeing a slight increase to their taxes paid because of that limit to the SALT deduction. Another issue, the personal exemption of $4,000 per dependent was eliminated. There are people who will end up paying more in taxes as a result of that. There are some limits to how much mortgage interest you can deduct, although that really only impacts very big mortgages that likely wouldn't be held by lower and middle income individuals. But what's incredible about all of this is that, like with most tax plans, some people pay a little more, some people pay a little less in the middle class. But the people that are really benefiting are the very wealthy people who are saving a median of $60,000 in taxes. There are very rich people who are saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes or even millions of dollars in taxes. And so when you zoom out, the big picture is you've got middle income Americans tweeting to Trump about $500 one way or the other, not to belittle the importance of $500 to middle income Americans. But what is going completely ignored by a lot of people is that there is one class that very, very much benefits from this, and it is the very rich who had gigantic tax cuts. Again, one group getting an average cut of $60,000. This is the red herring. This is how they win. And the only question is, will they hold him accountable in 2020? Because all of a sudden they'll get back to Hispanic people are dangerous and we need Bible study in school. Let's vote Trump and forget about the fact that he promised a tax cut and maybe I didn't get one. So a combination of misunderstanding how a lot of these tax cuts, provisions work, combined with cognitive dissonance and a short political memory, may make it so that Donald Trump still gets reelected in 2020. One of today's sponsors is privacy.com/Pakman, which is a free service that I myself use. Really useful in many different ways. Takes just a few seconds to link your debit card to privacy.com. Then you can create virtual credit cards that are linked directly to your bank account, and you use those virtual credit card numbers to buy things online, which protects your actual debit card so that it's not spread all over the internet. And one of the best things about it is how their mobile app and browser extensions for Chrome and Firefox make it really easy to use. Let's say, for example, that I'm signing up for a David Pakman Show membership. In the credit card number field, I already see the privacy.com icon. I just click it, choose which of my virtual credit cards I want to use, and the credit card number, expiration date, and security code are automatically entered. I can put in any zip code I want, and I'm done. And if you try to use my credit card number that you just saw on the screen, it doesn't matter because I've already deleted that virtual card, and that's the beauty of privacy.com. There are a ton of advantages to using a free service like this. For example, you can sign up for as many free trials as you want, Then just delete the virtual credit card you used and never worry about getting charged for it. It protects you from getting hacked. It protects you when companies are hacked, which happens all the time. It is all completely free. All you have to do is click the link under this video to get started. And for a limited time, they're giving everyone in our audience $5 towards your first purchase when you sign up using that link.